broadcasting live out of a basement in Appleton, Wisconsin. You're tuned into Fox Cities Core on WCZR Code Zero Radio. We're the show that gives you an opportunity to call in and be a part of the show. Our call-in line is 920-358-0795. Core.
Tyler S.J. is an acoustic singer-songwriter originally from North Dakota and now is based in Appleton, Wisconsin. He recently released a Christmas album titled A Little Piece. I'd like to welcome Tyler S.J. to Fox Cities Core. How are you doing today?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for coming on the show. First question is, how long have you been in the area?
I moved up here, I think, in about 2010. It was right before the Super Bowl. And it's kind of how I mark all things. And I've been in Milwaukee, moved up here. We were in Green Bay first. My wife is from here kind of originally. And so I was in a band called The Relics in like the early 2010s. And then we broke up kind of 2015 or so.
So prior to moving to this area, were you in bands in North Dakota?
No, I was a late bloomer. I didn't get a guitar until I was out of college. I'd always kind of wanted to, but I kind of played the ukulele, like kind of as a party trick. And then I got kind of good at it, and it's like, why doesn't that guy know how to play? I couldn't play anything on guitar. And my younger brother was just like, it's kind of embarrassing that you don't know how to play a guitar. And so I got one when I moved to Oregon. I didn't have any friends and I kind of learned how to play then. And I didn't play like an actual gig until I was past like 25 or 26 probably.
That's interesting. So learning the ukulele, there had to be an advertisement or something, or you must have seen something that made you decide, well, I'm going to learn this for a party trick. What was it? Do you remember?
My grandma had been in like a ukulele band of some sort. And my mom taught me like this chord progression that was really catchy. And so then I just kind of used that to learn the chord progressions for ukulele. But they don't necessarily like transpose one to one, And so that was kind of it. And I wrote a couple like songs that I later would play on guitar, but like, I don't know. It's not something I'm super proud of when I think about it. I'm like, that's about the douchiest thing you could do is show up with a ukulele. And I really did. So
with the Relics, were you playing guitar and singing in that project?
Yeah. And so that was like, I had a couple buddies that moved here from North Dakota and we played the First Mile of Music. And we kind of got into like a bit of a cover band niche, and we were, strenuously unserious. We didn't rehearse or anything, but we just kind of played like, we played these 3-hour gigs where like most of the songs we hadn't learned, and kind of committing crimes against tabulation by playing them all in wrong keys and, as simply as possible. But I mean, we had a fun run with it for a while. And then when we quit playing, I kind of quit playing too, so like, it wasn't. So when I first put out the album earlier this year, The Long Bit of Weather, that was the first thing I put out in a really long time. So it was kind of neat.
Yeah. So there was quite a time in between the Relic stuff and then the album that came out earlier this year. What made you decide to get back into it?
Well, I had been like I said, I'd been out of music. I'd played like a wedding here and there, but I didn't have calluses on my hands, anything like that. And in about, late 2021, I quit drinking. And so that was kind of like I would say, not necessarily the catalyst for getting back in, but I had a lot of time on my hands. And so like I had some songs that I really wanted to like record at some point. And so like I kind of started baby stepping into getting back into it, but it wasn't like the plan, to like really fully record or really fully start playing gigs again. It was just kind of one thing kind of led to another. And especially like, because, if you've heard the Long Bit of Weather album, it's a very, very obviously about getting sober. Like there's no song on it that's not kind of about that in one way or another. And so I think, I'm sure we're probably going to touch on this later, but like because the songs are so personal, like it was kind of a bit therapeutic a little bit to write about that and kind of get it out. And, it's not necessarily what I write about now, like it was kind of like a year of moping and talking about it and then kind of moving on.
You said your wife is from the area.
Mm-hmm.
Did you meet her after the Relics was?
No, I met her in Milwaukee at an open mic. And I had moved to Milwaukee with a girl I was dating at the time, and we broke up, and I met Erin not long after that. And so she was there for that whole kind of Relics ride. Like I don't say a Relics ride. I say that kind of ironically. It wasn't a ride. And but yeah, so she's no as long as she's known me, I played music.
So she knew what you were capable of during the recess time where you were.
Yeah, and I think it bothered her because I know she thought it bothered me. And I don't think I knew how much it bothered me. Like cuz especially as like a creative outlet, like I wasn't necessarily nothing that I do now really is that related to what I did in Relics. You know what I mean? Like the connections are different, what I'm playing is different for the most part. And so like the two experiences are linked a little bit, but they're definitely not like I didn't like pick up where I left off. You know what I mean? And so like I think she knew though that it was an itch I needed to scratch, and it really bothered me that I'd never recorded anything, and that I didn't think of myself as a musician anymore in any real way. And so the I think for it didn't like come back all at once either. Like I think about some of those first gigs, like the first couple of gigs I played after I came back. And I remember I had never played sober ever. And so like it was really kind of like, I don't know if I'm going to enjoy this, and like the first one, especially, I can tell you was not good, you know? And so like I think there was a little bit of question of whether it'd be a second, but like, that's where I credit Michael Grabner is like, he was really encouraging, like kind of like, oh, it wasn't that bad sort of thing. And, and I think, I slowly started getting, a little bit more comfortable and you know, feeling like people were responding to it a little bit more and like finding my voice again, because singing into a microphone is something that you lose too. And so like once I started getting kind of comfortable again, and then I was like, well, I should really record something if that was kind of the point anyway. And so that's kind of where everything started.
So you knew Michael Grabner prior.
But kind of just, you know, like ships passing. Like he played a couple. I used to set up blood drives for the blood center in Appleton, and for one of them we'd have music, and I knew him a little bit from when I was at Jim's place a long time ago, a bar in Appleton, and so I would have him come and play, and I just really liked him personally. I really liked him, loved his music, and so when I started like baby stepping back in, I also knew he was sober, and so like it's like this might be somebody who I can at least bounce off ideas off, and I knew he was too sweet of a person to tell me like, dude, this is terrible, and I was right. And so like a lot of those, when I was first starting to get back in, a lot of it was kind of riding Michael's coattails. Can I sit in 20 minutes here? Sort of thing. He would actually offer. I never think I ever asked, but I mean I think some of those little things, I always think about like how things could have broken differently. And that's why I love this town, because like it's not, it's kind of the novelty's not lost on me, like a 40-year-old guy. I'm like, hey, I'm gonna play music again, you know? And so I think Appleton's a special place to be able to do that. And a lot of the people in it are really special too, And so like there's a lot of just kind of like built-in support that made it, I guess, possible, Because I don't think, I think, like I said about those first few gigs, if they'd gone poorly, it wouldn't have like broken my heart or anything, but I just probably wouldn't have continued. And so I think some of those early ones, I can think of like, certain songs that hit at the time or whatever. And then like that first mile of music, which was kind of like, I think of like in terms of goals, there'd be something down the road like, well, I got to do this, and then we'll see what happens. And I think that's kind of how that mile of music was too. Like that was before I'd put out the album, but a lot of the songs that are on the album I'd played there, and I could tell that like this one catches on a little bit, and so just some of those experiences I think kind of built on each other.
That's like the relationship with Michael Grabner. What a good one to have. Like you said, that he went through all that before. What were some of the big differences you noticed when you were starting to play the shows without drinking? Was there anything that surprised you?
Yeah, I mean, like, I think, I think you maybe heard the joke that, like, when people quit drinking, they quit doing karaoke. Like, because there's a little bit of, like, cutting loose that is, like, easier to do, when you're not, like, thinking so hard about how everything sounds. And especially, given the fact, like I said, like, 40 years old, like, it's not like I'm not aware of that, like, that's in certain ways, at least if you're kind of an amateur, it might be somewhat a young man's game. And so, like, I think some of the things I I felt not like a fish out of water, but just like, if this doesn't work, I'm not going to push it, you know. And then like some of those, um, like the I think that's the biggest difference between like, doing something, drinking and not drinking, is just putting yourself out there is easier if you're lubed up a little bit, But I mean, not impossible, obviously.
Is it harder to play bars or places like that? Obviously, those are a lot of the gigs that are available. Was that hard at first to play those places?
Not really. I mean, I think, um, by the time there was like a solid year between when I quit drinking and really started gigging. So like, so by that time I wasn't like, I wouldn't have probably tried it right away. You know what I mean? And I think the, the, I think I was pretty sure that I was like out of the woods, so to speak, before I really started playing again out. And, but I mean, it's not like it's not there. Like, I play at the distillery in Green Bay sometimes, and it really smells boozy when you get in there. I'm like, that smells good. So like, it's not like it's like out of me entirely. You know what I mean? But like, I think at the same time, I do have like an awareness that like, well, I mean, this would all go away if I started drinking again. So like, and then on the same token, I'm kind of glad in a way that things went how they did, because I think if like, I've been doing radio shows or whatever when I was in my late 20s, I'd have blown it. I know I would have. And so like, I probably would have burned a bridge, so you never wanted to speak to me again. So like so I think the timing actually works out nicely. And it makes me grateful. Like, it's different to slot music into your life a little bit when you got a wife and kids and all those other stuff, And so I'm grateful for the time, and it's just kind of, it's different, I guess, is what I'd say, because I think in the late 20s I wouldn't have appreciated it like I do.
So, Long Bit of Weather, to me, it's got a country vibe, and I'm sure you hear that a lot. Are you inspired by a lot of country music, or are your inspirations completely different than your sound?
It's funny because like because I'd never put anything out, I'd also never like had like reviews from people or like feedback. And so like the whole country thing was entirely news to me. You know what I mean? Like I didn't, I, I would hear like, you sound kind of like, you know, Sturgill Simpson or like Dwight Yoakam, which suggests a frogginess that I wasn't aware I had. You know what I mean? So like and I think like some of my like songwriting tropes are probably kind of country in a way, the song structures and whatnot. But yeah, that was kind of news to me. Like I love Bruce Springsteen. I love James Taylor, like kind of like the, kind of classic singer-songwriters, and then like your John Mayers and then that group a little bit. But I mean, I don't think I'm consciously aping country. I think it just kind of turned out that way.
What made you decide to go into Rock Garden for recording that album that was released in April?
That was, kind of on the recommendation of Michael and Kurt a little bit.
That's kind of their home base.
Yeah. And like my biggest, when I think about, at that time I didn't have a band, I didn't have like connections even really I wanted to make a full band sounding record, but I didn't really have that available to me. So I knew that, there was he kind of had his stable of people. And like, I don't think I even met Rick Armstrong before the night we did the drum tracks. And I was like my best buddy, so like um, and then, now that I've recorded with Mark a couple times, like it was the first time I'd ever been in the studio. And so like, I was intimidated, but also like, man, can you believe this sort of thing? So like, Mark is great for that in terms of like he can do everything, but he didn't look at me like I was a total novice, and which was probably my biggest fear. I might have not come back if I was like, well, this guy thinks you suck, So like the the experience of that, I think, was a big kind of like of feeling like not necessarily like, oh, you belong, but more like this is a lot of fun. It's not stressful, and like recording that album, we did it over like 6 months, and by the time it came out, I think I'd probably only played maybe a dozen gigs, So like I feel like that album, a lot of the songs I hadn't really vetted in front of an audience before. And then so like I kind of learned a little bit more about like what, how to pick songs, I guess.
6 months is long enough to want to change a song after you've already recorded. Do you have any things where you had to go back and do major changes?
Not really. I mean, it was, and and I'm kind of the way that like, I just want to do it and move on. I'm not definitely not like a perfectionist type. And so like more that like by the time it came out, I was not playing those songs as often. You know what I mean? So like, and because I listened to them so much, like over the course of those 6 months, I was kind of sick of them. And so like the process to me of like continually like, like recording and then like especially like promoting and stuff is like just not that much fun to me. I like recording, but like the like continual promotion is just like kind of exhausting.
Well, and you did some self-recordings before you went into Rock Garden. Did getting some successful self-recordings done also help with the decision to take them to Rock Garden?
Yeah, big time. Because like, so backing up a little bit. So like when I first started gigging a little bit, this is like 2022, and it started with Christmas music. Like I'm sure they'd be like, what's your deal with Christmas music, man? So like I had written several of the songs that are on the Christmas album, and I'm friends with Chad Minster from Vic Ferrari. He's a good buddy, and I ran into him. I was like, hey, I'm gonna record these Christmas songs. Do you want to? He's like, yeah, let's do it. That was actually a good Chad impression. And then a buddy named John Burke, who was a regular at Cleo's where I used to bartend sometimes. I knew he was a great drummer, and he plays in a few different bands in the area. And so like we just got together in a basement not unlike this one, and recorded them over like 2.5 weeks. And so like and I mixed all those just on like Logic really poorly. I didn't know how to mix vocals at all, and like all my gear was from Amazon. And so like that really, I think, especially because I was still trying to fill the hours in the day, you know what I mean? Was really kind of when I caught the bug, because I'd be up all night, like watching YouTube videos about mixing and stuff like that, and not thinking like that was like the end goal was like learning how to like properly mix a song, but just being like, where'd the time go? I went in here at 10 o'clock, it's 4 a.m, and then my wife would walk out and I've got a song for her, like I look like I've been beat up, and so like I really do, I still enjoy like messing around with tools and stuff, but now that I know that I have Mark down the road, I don't do that nearly as much. But that is kind of my process though, is that like if I write a song, I'll record it myself and then listen to it exhaustively for like a week to kind of learn it, And so I still do it a little bit, but just not as much.
So when you got that first album out, Long Bit of Weather, what was the response?
It was good. I think for a lot of people who've known me for a long time, I think they were really proud of me, because like, I think everyone assumed that part of my life was over, So like, and then there's a whole nother group of people, like I said, I didn't really play until well after college. So like, I think a lot of people from my hometown and stuff in North Dakota were like, this Tyler Sjostrom, like the same guy, So I think the response was, I guess would say, was about what I was hoping to get. I wasn't expecting to get like on Avenue Radio or on Code Zero Radio or any of that, so that was kind of nice. And it started opening doors a little bit, which is cool. And then, like when I planned the release show, which was at Gibson downtown, I called in a bunch of, basically heroes, like Kurt, I consider him a buddy now. wasn't always that way. I even like 2 years ago, I would say he was like a hero of mine. So like calling in all these guys, Amelia Ford, Brad Berdini, to play that release show kind of made me think like, it's kind of cool that they wanted to do this. And so like I'm pretty, I wouldn't say like hard on myself, but like I, you know, I hear the same imperfections you might hear, like I'm not immune to them. And so like, so the, so that was kind of cool to think that, the songs stand up. So it was a good learning experience. Like I said, it was my first time in the studio and first time kind of just like, coordinating all that, like the release and designing the album and whatnot. It was really fun. But, but yeah, I think when I went in this time to do the Christmas album, I felt like a much smoother experience. I didn't.
Well, before we get there, besides Rick, who else played on your album from earlier this year?
Molly Levine, who's in the Raglanders and Troy Hines in 57's band. And that's kind of the funny thing too, is that like a lot of the people, like Molly is a friend of my wife's from teaching. So I was like, I'd never met her actually either. And now we're good friends also. But so like, was like, Erin's my wife, Erin, do you think it'd be cool if I asked Molly to play on some songs? I'm like, sure. But of course, Mark knows everyone too. So like on that album, it was really mostly just me, Mark, Rick, and Molly. And Mark did a lot of the like lead guitar and whatnot.
Okay, then so that you played Mile Music that year, right?
It was the fall before.
Before.
Yeah. So like I didn't have anything out at that time.
Okay, so then you had these Christmas songs that some were written a long time ago.
Yeah.
What made you decide that you wanted to do a full album? That's a pretty big undertaking.
It was kind of like, I mentioned it to Mark right after Mile Music, and he was into the idea, even though I think he thought it was not going to be originals. But I knew that like I liked the response when I put out those Christmas songs last fall, that were like home recordings, and I knew I could do those better, and I just like Christmas music. So I was like, well, this might be a cool niche if they catch on at all. And I didn't want to like run into recording full album again right away either. And so like you said, like a lot of those songs I'd written over the course of one song's like 17 years old. And then the rest I think I've written mostly within the last like 4 years. But it's fun to it's a different musical itch to scratch. Like Christmas songs are different in a way, like they're structurally a little bit different. And you can use like saxophone. I had Ross Catterton playing on the album. So like it's just kind of fun to it's novel even to me. I was just like honestly laughing my ass off in the booth while Ross was playing those saxophone parts, because it's just, holy crap, this is my silly little song I wrote, however many years ago. That sounds like a big, big thing. And so I'm really, really glad we did the Christmas album.
You're right about there's a different sound to a Christmas song. In your opinion, what makes a Christmas song besides the lyrics?
Well, I think like I've thought about this. Glad you asked. But like, like take a song like Mariah Carey's song, the one. But like, it's like, the chorus first, the hook first, that in itself is kind of rare, and they kind of go all over the place. There's not like as much of like an ABC structure. And then thematically, they're totally uncynical. They're, like they're kind of, at least, not counting like, songs that are consciously being cynical. But like, I don't know. I think it's fun writing that way. It's fun kind of like, putting it out there. I don't want to say like a positive way, but it's just kind of like, I don't know. I think the headspace for writing a Christmas song is different. And then of course the instrumentation is all very fun. And I've kind of got like part of the reason I love this basement is because I've got like a mid-century like fixation a little bit. And so like some of those, touches like saxophone and bells and whatnot, and like on Chill in the Air, like the doo-woppy background vocals, like that was all like so much fun. And so scratching that was fun too.
Before you book time to go in the studio? Were you already cashing in, calling in the favors for Kurt and all those guys to come in?
Little by little, like, because I mean, it was going to be just however much time we had. And so like and then when they kind of started taking shape
So you started just recording the guitar
we started with
drums?
just the guitar and drums. And so this was like the beginning of October, middle of September, somewhere in there. And so like we weren't going to do it in 6 months, we had to kind of get them through pretty quick. But as we started talking about them, we being me and Mark, like, what this song needs, like, I wonder if Ross would be down, or like, and then once the word kind of started getting around a little bit that I was doing this and that it was like, that Mark liked it, like, it's really great. Like, and that's not to say that he didn't like my first album, but like when I could tell that like other guys who were going there to record, he's like, yeah, like Tyler's Christmas album's like, it's not bad. So like I'd talk to Kurt and Michael and stuff and be like, I want to have you on it. And that was part of it too, is like, I wanted it to be collaborative and kind of, something that the novelty is part of it, but also it was really fun to have my buddies on it. And there's a lot of different parts on there. Brad Bordini's on there. Yeah. Jenna from Sister Winchester, Amanda James.
So how did Rick's did his style change at all from your previous album that he drummed on when you just met him compared to being friends, for months before going in and recording this Christmas album?
Well, I think some of them, like there's the wall, like he's a rock drummer, and so
with a nice collection of cat shirts, by the way.
He does have an exquisite collection of cat shirts. And so I think like for some of the like quieter songs, we had to pull him back a little bit, but I don't think really. I think he was excited to be able to use like his brushes and stuff like that a little bit more. And then, we've got bells on a lot of stuff and yeah, I think he leaned right into it.
How did you decide who you're going to feature on each track? Like you said, Ross was on a track. You said that was Mark's call on that or Mark's idea, but as far as like pulling in Brad, or
yeah, I mean like we basically, I think we lined up which ones we wanted to fiddle on, because like, we didn't want it to be a full violin album because then it's a country album, and then I knew that there was a song, A Little Piece, that's kind of the name of the album. It's not kind of the name of the album, it's the name of the album that I wanted Brad on. And then I mostly kind of just wanted to make sure that those guys were on one if they wanted to be, and Kurt was kind of a late call, like I knew he wanted to be on it. I knew it was going to be harmony, but I didn't know what song it was going to be on really. And then like what he came up with for Chill in the Air was so much fun. So like I'm just glad with how it came out. It was, I wish I'd been able to call like, Tom Thiel and a couple other guys that weren't on it, but next time, a little more piece too.
The track with Brad, A Little Piece, that it's the cadence, the singing cadence, it's just such a relaxing, almost like a reflective song, which not all Christmas music does, but I think for me, a good Christmas song brings back feelings and like memories of past Christmases, and that song definitely does that. Did Brad have a chance to hear that song before? You said you recorded the drums and the guitar. Did you send him a copy then and just ask him to layer? Did you give him direction on what's planned?
So that one there's 3 that I wrote this year: A Little Piece, the Lion Cub song, and then the one with Michael, the long If It Rains in December. And I recorded the Brad one after I wrote it after we started. So like I sent it to Brad, I recorded it, on my phone sort of thing, and sent it to him. And, I knew it felt like a special song. And Brad's a very Zen guy. He's got, and especially like, I thought that I didn't have any idea what he was going to bring to the song. I think we both were planning he was going to do acoustic at first. And so he came into the studio and he had a telly as well. And like, that was just kind of a call at the time. And I think it makes the song, So like, I think that was honestly one of those nights, and I don't get too like, bent up about like a special night in the studio, but that was a really cool night where like, we were recording live to tape, which is its own thing a little bit. And I think we did it in just a couple takes, and it was done, and it felt special, like the song itself did. So it was a really cool night. Yeah.
Was there a night that everybody was in the studio at the same time?
Not really. I mean, except for the night that we recorded the Into the Music podcast. But so like a lot of them were, kind of one-offs, and which is fine. I don't think, for, everyone on the album has also got a day job, so like so a lot of them were like, can you come down Tuesday? And fortunately there wasn't a lot of messing around with scheduling. Jenna from Sister Winchester lives over by like, Sheboygan, was able to come for a night, and then she recorded a part remotely as well, so like it all went really, really quickly. And, some of the songs like Little Peace and Resolutions too, that are really dialed back, it's kind of by design because of time constraints, but they worked out really great. So I'm not worried about that.
And how would you consider your skill level on guitar?
I mean, I'm serviceable. I think, I'm like, I say like I'm a rhythm guitar player without a band for the most part, and like I can do anything I need to do chord wise. I don't do a lot of lead stuff. It'll come. But like, what's funny is that like up until I started playing again, over the last couple of years, I hadn't learned anything in ages. Like what I learned when I first started to play is exactly what I was still doing. And so I think I've made a bit of a leap just in the last couple of years. And I think, not to knock my guitar playing or my singing, but I think my songwriting is probably the strongest trait of the three. And so I try to make the song stand up to cover up for some somewhat shoddy guitar playing.
Well, you really shine with your lyrics. You're really good at storytelling, painting pictures. I'm curious, when you're writing your songs, how are you doing that? Are you coming up with your lyric ideas, or are you strumming a chord progression you like, and then
Usually,
how are you coming up with these stories?
usually a chord progression first, and I write pretty quickly, so like usually if I have a song and like I get like what it's about in my head, I can usually flesh it out pretty much in a night. And like I think the only song that I play a lot that took longer was Lion Cub, because it's 1,000 words long.
It's over 7 minutes long.
It's 7.5 minutes long. But yeah, so like I usually get the chord progression, then whatever that chord progression is, if it's if it feels a certain emotion, then I'll try to figure out the story from there a little bit.
I'm glad you mentioned the Lion Cub for Christmas. That's a very good song. It's in 3 parts.
4 parts.
4 parts.
Yeah.
Tell me the inspiration behind that song.
So a couple years ago, so I've got a 6-year-old son who goes to school with your son. And a couple years ago, he would have been about 2. And he asked for a lion cub, like a living lion cub. Like, haha, that's funny. And I wanted to do, I was a big fan growing up of like Ray Stevens. And then like, my dad was actually big fan of Ray Stevens, big fan of like, do you remember the Twisted Christmas albums? Bob Rivers, I think the guy's name was.
I think I've heard some of those songs.
Yeah,
I don't recall the album specifically.
Yeah, so like I was like, I want to have like a kind of silly song. And I thought about, and I was looking through my notebook, and I'd written down Lion Cub for Christmas, just the title. And, it's a really simple song, like in terms of how I'm playing it, So I just started writing it, and we were camping this summer, and I got through like, the first stanza, and like, then I had kind of a plot in my head. Like, I'm just going to write it and see what happens, because like if it might be 12 minutes long. I didn't actually look at how long it was until I'd recorded it. Like, oh my God, it's 8 minutes long. But I felt like I was able to kind of land the plane in terms of the song itself. So I didn't know at first. I knew I was gonna bring it to Mark and see what he thought, because like I thought that might be just a novelty that lives in my house, and so then I played it for him, and he's like, "It's really long." It's like, but so was Alice's Restaurant. Like he was all for it, and that's definitely. I know he likes the songs, but that's definitely his favorite of the songs, and so that's another one we did really quick, and that was the two that we added after we'd started the album are that one and the one with Michael that were both written after we'd started the album. So like I don't know, people have really latched onto that one as just kind of like, I got a message from a buddy a couple days ago with like a screenshot of it, like, no, this is just pure silliness. And it is, and when I play it, it's kind of funny because like when I play it with the band, it's a little bit different. But when I play it by myself, about halfway through, I'm like, the song is really long, because it is, and there's a lot of words. I'm kind of out of breath by the time I'm done. But yeah, I'm glad that one came together. It might outlive me. It's silly.
There's a couple, at least one quasi swear words in that song. Were you a little hesitant to put that in the Christmas song and have a explicit indicator on there?
I mean, I thought that like, I would think that, I thought maybe that might be a drawing point. I bought Warrant Cherry Pie for that reason. And then if you saw the single cover, I didn't think about it until later that I could put a explicit sticker on that album cover that my son drew with a marker. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of silly to have I wasn't worried about like, oh, am I going to lose a couple spins? Not in it for the spins.
To add to the controversy, which is Tyler S.J., you appeared on Local 5 Live with Brad Bordini.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you're aware, you probably are, their article that you shared, and I highlighted it to people watching it at home right now. He writes about family, growing up, and figuring shit out.
It says that on Local 5 Live.
Yeah, I've got it highlighted right there.
Wow.
It's on their website page. I don't know, I think they meant stuff, but,
I think they pulled that probably from our website. But I think it's kind of funny that beat the censors.
Yeah, so I mean, it just adds to the controversy that involves the Christmas album.
Yeah. I've always had a potty mouth, though. It's true.
What do your kids think of Dad putting out a Christmas album with songs that were obviously partially inspired by them?
I mean, I think right now they don't think a whole lot of it. They like coming to my shows and stuff. I don't think they've connected like, any of that to like, these are Christmas songs. These are also Christmas songs. So I think they're a little bit young to really understand that this is a song about them, sort of thing. I hope they get it. I know that like my son's teacher thinks it's funny, that there's a song about them. So yeah, I don't think they're quite there yet.
Is most of your writing for this album based on true things?
No. I mean, I want to say, I think because
Lion Cub for Christmas obviously takes liberties, but it's based on a real thing, though.
I mean, I think they're I shouldn't say no. I think, I especially think about How's the Weather Where You Are, which is like really personal song.
You talk about your brother in there.
Right. And so like it's they all kind of, I try to keep them kind of siloed in like a different topic for each one. But there's like, the other one there's the one that's kind of like the other saxophone song, Would You Ever, that I don't think is necessarily personal. I just want to make it fun. Chill in the Air is not kind of the same way. And so like the ones that are personal are very personal, but then there's, some that just aren't. And then Christmas Clown, which is 17 years old, I think there's probably a couple ex-girlfriends out there who really hate that song. I mean, so I mean, like some of the first verse anyway is conflated about a specific girlfriend in Oregon who I don't think probably ever heard it. But, I like to think that she would hear it and just hate it.
You reference the Christmas Story in there, I believe, and something about shooting your eye out.
Yeah.
Is it kind of fun to put in little nuggets?
Those are little Easter Christmas eggs. And that one, I mean, it's funny because, outside of Lion Cub, when I started writing and recording my songs a lot, I started editing them. So like Christmas Clown is also a very wordy song, and a little bit too wordy. It's so like I can tell that I wrote it when I did because it's got so many damn words in it. You know what I mean?
Does Aaron like you singing songs with ex-girlfriends in it?
It's a great question. I don't think she minds, and I mean she's gotten some sweet ones too, but no, I don't think she cares.
You did a show last week at the Tap Room, which was a really fun time.
That was a good time.
A lot of the players from the album were there. Kurt was pretty funny for Chilling the Air.
Yeah,
Kind of wandering up there, and he had bells, I think.
Mhm.
But how does it feel to have people like this that are now friends that put the time in to come and do stuff like this with you for your art?
I mean, I don't want to say it's like humbling, because that's not exactly the right word. It's really encouraging, I think, and I think that I've said this to some of the other guys. Like I feel like this is a time that I'm gonna look back on very fondly. Like that my kids aren't in sports yet. I don't feel like this month notwithstanding, I'm gonna be gone a lot this month, but like it feels like a really, fertile time for this town musically. And then to have those guys on it is just really special. Like I don't think they thought about it much more like, oh, I'm, helping Tyler achieve his dream of putting out a Christmas album. Like it's not how you think about it in the moment, But I think when I look back on it, I will think it's very special. And that a lot of these guys really, really dove into it where I could tell that they were enjoying themselves doing it. They enjoyed the novelty of the Christmas part. And that, I think it increased my own dedication to the songs because, in my mind it was a little bit like, yeah, I'm going to put out a Christmas album. Who do like wasn't thinking about it in these big grand terms until all these buddies are on it who I respect and who I know that, like Brad, for example, I know it meant a lot to him to do that song. And, because the song means a lot to me doesn't necessarily mean it's going to mean a lot to someone else. And so those things mean a lot. It's more just like, it felt like they're doing me a solid but they enjoyed themselves doing it. And so that in itself is kind of the reward, I suppose.
You had a Girl in the Gun open that show, and of course Amanda James, another phenomenal voice on the album. Kurt mentioned something about he wrote one Christmas song and he can barely remember it. He put out an album. If you do another Christmas album, would you ever make the cover be a cover of Kurt's Christmas song?
I would have to, right? if we can dig it up. I mean, that guy's written so many songs. It's not surprising that he's got a few that he's lost to time. The Christmas Clown one, I had lost that one. So like we were moving into the house we bought right after we got married, and I found it in a box, like the lyrics to it, and like I hadn't thought about that song in any way for a very long time, and the band was still playing. And I brought it to them and like, get that Christmas crap out of here, and so then it died again, and then when I was doing the songs with Chad and John, which we called our band the Stable Few. It's still on Spotify. I don't know how to get it off. But so those songs are out there. And then I brought it back for that. And so yeah, so like it's kind of fun. That one is really fun just to have it out in the world. Because like I said, like I wrote it a long time ago. I wrote it for a friend who was planning to maybe put out like a original Christmas album for charity in North Dakota. Never happened. So like the song just kind of went away. And so like that one too, I think people probably hear it as being personal, where it's very much not. It's like I wanted to write like a power ballad, and Christmas Clown came to mind. So it's kind of fun.
Songs are like kids. You don't want to pick a favorite, but do you have a favorite on this album?
I think How's the Weather is probably my favorite. I think there, different ones are favorites for different reasons, but I think that's the one that I think because it's very specifically about my siblings, and like the vignettes in it are specific. I talk about like the second verse talks about like dragging behind my dad's Suburban that happened, that we got pulled over by the police in our hometown. So like that was one too that like I sent it to them right afterward, like, and just stared at my phone like I'll know when they hear it because they're gonna think it's very special. So like that one's really, really special to me. And then A Little Piece is special because I feel like that's kind of my worldview, So like I was happy to kind of put that one together because I don't know if I mentioned this on Facebook the other day. The song Hope from my first album started initially thinking it was going to be a Christmas song. And so, and then I pulled that back and made it not a Christmas song. Uh-oh, who's on the line?
Yeah, we've got a call here. You're on with Tyler S.J. What's your question?
This is little brother Davey.
Hey, Davey.
How soon can I get in?
You're in.
You're on.
I'm on the air?
You're on the air.
Oh, okay. Well, I want to talk to Ty about his ukulele.
Yeah. What if?
So it was a Martin ukulele.
It was.
And pretty sure that I smashed it over his head.
I'm certain of it. I had to have it repaired.
So what?
It was like a $400 ukulele. And I'm pretty sure I smashed it over his head in our basement.
Yeah.
Were you just sick of hearing it, or what caused that?
I just thought it was the dumbest thing ever.
He really did.
But then, so I teased him a lot about this ukulele, which in hindsight is like one of the nicest instruments either of us ever owned. And my dad, Ty, I didn't buy you your first guitar. Dad did. He buy you that black acoustic from Bismarck.
That start?
I also broke that.
Yeah, he did. He broke my first few instruments. That's a theme.
I sat on that at a party. It was sitting on your bed, and I sat on it and just smashed it.
Those are all tragedies. And then we bought.
But then I bought you an Alvarez for Christmas. Yeah, like that same year.
And that one I played a long time.
Have you been spinning Tyler's Christmas album quite a bit this season?
Oh, we tried to, but yeah. I mean, I'm trying to start. What time?
I want to thank you for.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So that's about it. I'm just watching you guys on TV. I love you guys.
Love you, buddy. See ya.
Thanks for calling in.
All right, later.
I should have asked what he thought of the song that you had references to him in it.
Well, when he said I tried to, he knows that I've been badgering him. I don't know if he's listened to it. I know he's heard How's the Weather last year. I doubt he's heard the new one. And it bugs me, but he'll get there.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what the problem was here. And I know you had some issues with the streaming, getting it to stream. Can you tell me about the frustration of telling everybody it's going to be out and then it's not there?
Oh man, it's kind of embarrassing, right? So the album was supposed to be out on Black Friday. It was all the way done in plenty of time. And then, you're not being paid by SoundCloud, are you? No, SoundCloud blew it. They blew my release. And so I bet I sent them over that weekend, a dozen emails of increasing anger, knowing that this is being answered by a bot. There's I'm screaming into the void here. And then I started getting emails from them back this week, just letting you know that this ticket is still open. Where was your urgency a week ago? So yeah, I'm fine with it. It's done well. I'm moving on. But
are you worried about the shelf life of a Christmas album? Because
that's why I was so mad. It's you're costing me 4 days when I've got 25 days.
And now you're down to a couple weeks.
Then it goes into hibernation. But I mean, I'm hopeful. I know I come back to Christmas music every year, So I think that was kind of the thinking too about why release it now. May as well have something that's gonna people are going to come back to. If I wait 3 years, and I've lost 3 Decembers. Yeah.
And your wife Erin did the cover for
She
that.
did.
Can you tell me what media is that made with?
Watercolors.
It's a pretty cool picture. And then on the
Isn't it?
back is your son
Yeah.
in front of the Christmas tree.
Mm-hmm. So like I knew. So I don't know if you have like artistic people in your life, like a painter who like to have that person be your wife too is like, I mean, there's a hurdle because you don't want to nag them, you know? And so like I asked her in probably like September, like, what do you think about painting the album cover? And she was all for it, and we started getting into like October. She painted, I think, the beginning of November. And with minimal nagging, actually. Like I just got the kids out of the house for a night and she came back and she was all stoked. She's like, I need to be painting more often because she's an art teacher and has a degree in art education, but she's a wonderful painter. And so like I'm glad that like it didn't come with too much of me pushing to make her mad about doing it, because I know she's really proud of it and it came out better than I would have anticipated. Like the idea, I was just like, minimal direction for me. I don't want to tell you how to live, Aaron. Just like make something, what says a little piece to you. We are family likes to get out, in the outdoors and kind of remote areas. And that cabin is a rendering of this little cabin we rent in Door County like twice a year and have for 10 years or more. And so that was like a touch I wasn't expecting. And, I think one of the coolest things about the album, honestly, has been how much feedback the cover has gotten, because like you want to share it with your wife, I can't like necessarily bring her into the studio. She sang some backup stuff on the first album, but I don't think she loved doing it. And that's not her lane anyway. So like to have that right in front was really, really special. And I think the fact I always think about this stuff, I wish I didn't, but like I always think about like, how am I going to look back on this, and I think that's part of what's going to make it really special is that we've got everybody on it, my like having my son on the back and everything else.
Well, you do a column for Appleton Monthly, and about a week ago, a column came out about the magic of Christmas and not wanting to spoil the magic, and use the picture of your son in front of the Christmas tree. So that has a story that even goes beyond.
Yeah. So like it was from last year, and we'd put up our tree that day, bought from Grandpa Dan's. Everyone patronized Grandpa Dan's. But so we put up the tree, and like I was just sitting up, just working on something. I think probably just like scrolling on my phone. And Ellis came out and walked up, and he was just standing up by the tree for like at least 5 minutes, 10 minutes. And just standing there, I could hear him kind of talking to himself and kind of singing to himself, and just like had no idea I was there. And I took that picture, and like, when I mentioned this in the article too, but like, even though like I go to some like pretty wholesome places on this album, I still know and still feel that Christmas is somewhat cynical in a way. And so like, that's part of the joy of having kids is like, they don't see it that way. And so those are places I tried to go to with the album too, with some of the writing of it.
So your column, if people are interested, where can they read that column?
Well, the magazine's not online. Like in order, shockingly, it's not online. I've written for it for 10 years.
Even though it's AppletonMonthly.com.
They've got a website. You just won't find any of the articles. So like you basically have to find my Facebook, and I think I'm planning, I think next year to put a book together of them that would at least put them online. You can go to my website if you want. I've got a lot of them up there. But yeah, that's always kind of like been a bit of frustration. Like I wish they were all online.
Well, that explains like why you're so good at songwriting as well. The whole lyric side of it and the writing is something you have a passion for.
Yeah, but like, and I think they're kind of similar, especially like writing story songs, because like it takes like 3 minutes to read an article, and so like, and to kind of like, stick the landing, so to speak. And so I kind of think of them the same way, and my songs are kind of prosy, so like I think there's definitely like a lot of overlap between those.
Gotta ask you, I put a couple albums in front of you there. I kind of stacked the deck because I put 2 Ben Crosby albums, but do you have a preference, Ben Crosby or Elvis?
I'm an Elvis guy.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. And I think for a few reasons, but like, I think Elvis is such a like uniquely beautiful person. You know, they just don't make him that beautiful. And then like, I don't know, I've watched a few of the documentaries that are out about him and stuff. The guy was such like just a unique position. And I think, I don't know, I love Elvis. So it's not necessarily close. I love Bing Crosby too, but I really love the Ray Charles Christmas album. That's the favorite.
So when is the official cutoff date for Christmas music in your opinion? I
think New Year's. You know, like I can't quit. And I've been in this mindset for a long time, you know, from recording Christmas songs from September on. So like it's gonna be like quitting drinking. But like again, just like, oh man, what do I do with my time?
What are you gonna do if you're doing a show, you know, at Mile of Music or wherever during the summer and somebody wants to hear, you know, one of your songs off the Christmas album? Are you gonna deny them? Or
I would never deny them. And I think, you know, there's some songs that, like, I think the Pogues played Fairy Tale in New York all year. And so, like, I might be making that up, but I feel like that should be true. But anyway, I mean, if they come up, or if they're, you know, if someone would ever request one, I would absolutely play it.
Where can people go to find out more about Tyler S.J.?
I've got a website, Tyler-SJ, but honestly, .com, Tyler-SJ.com. But probably just my Facebook. That's where I broadcast all my crap. And not my musicians page, because those are boring.
Tyler S.J. is in the studio, Fox Cities Core, Code Zero Radio, going to do a live song for us. Take it away.
If it rains in December, if it's pouring on Christmas Eve, if the spitting won't spare all the crowds in Times Square, just sit and watch the rain with me. Hearing that the world's getting warmer, seems the snow might not fly like it had. But if you're tied with you, sounds like patter on the roof. You know what? Don't sound so bad. Might snow in January. By March we'll be dying for spring. Don't need a snowstorm on a night like this. Just tell us what time it is. Won't you snuggle up close to me? And if it rains in December, if it's pouring on Christmas Eve, if the spitting won't spare all the crowds in Times Square, you sit and watch the rain with me. You sit and watch the rain with me. Hearing next year will be better, but I'm not looking that far ahead. I'm just looking at you in your well-intended boots. You know what? Don't look so bad. And if it rains in December, if it's pouring on Christmas Eve, if the spitting won't spit all the crowds in Times Square, you sit and watch the rain with me. You sit and watch the rain with me. watch the rain.